Trees have been an essential part of my life. No matter where I go or how far I reach, they always remind me of the roots that I draw substance from. My ancestral home had a huge backyard adorned with varieties of trees, and the main attraction was a lychee tree. Lychee fruits have black, red and yellow shades of shells outside and delicate, juicy flesh inside. When I came to America, I did not find these fruits anywhere. I was delighted when I found them at an Asian market and was pleased when I saw my daughters getting their hands and taste buds on these delicious treats. Thus began my story of saving the lychees. Lychee trees produces numerous fruits at its peak, but when it is filled with ripe lychees, the night bats appear. They would come in drove, attack the lychee, devour the juicy flesh, and leave the paltry seeds on the ground. While the bats were relishing, we were listening. While the bats were rejoicing, we were ruining the lychees. My grandmother came to our rescue. She engaged a laborer, an old man, to protect these trees. One time, I woke up in the middle of the night with the sound of music. Where was it coming? It was so enthralling. I followed the sound and soon found myself walking up the path to our backyard. As I approached the lychee tree, I recognized the voice. It was the old man playing a melodious tune in his flute. I stand still, mesmerized by the vibration in the music. That day, the moon was very bright, casting a long blue shadow on the ground. Against the music and the moonlight, the dark green tree with thin-looking branches laden with hundreds of bright lychees turned into a paradise. My daughters loved that story, the enchanting images of the lychee, the old man playing the flute, and the way he protected those trees. A few years later, in the summer of 2016, I could not find those fruits. On my inquiry, the store owner was telling me a disturbing news. In the countryside of India, the chemical fertilizers and pesticides were sprayed in excess over the flowering trees, causing those tender fruits vulnerable and a health hazard to the consumers. It was a rude awakening to me. I realized that if it continued, our children won't be able to play in the tree or enjoy the sweetness of these fruits. I realized that this defenseless gifts of Mother Nature needed someone to protect from destruction, and that someone I decided would be me. I began a campaign raising awareness about the environmental crisis concerning these trees at our monthly meeting of community nonprofit. I was talking passionately about the hazards of chemical fertilizer. In that meeting, someone mentioned an environmental activist. Her name was Peggy Carswell. Born and raised in British Columbia, Canada, her inner calling led her to the other part of the world, to my home state in India. Since 1998, for the last 22 years, she has been visiting that region, promoting traditional farming techniques, teaching the tea growers and farmers how to grow tea and vegetables in organic methods. Every year, she would travel all the way from Canada to my home state in India, and then she would devote her time going from village to village, showing the villagers how to use organic manure or compost. When I came to know about her work, I was awestruck. I was captivated by the remarkable story of a woman who had shown us that geographical barrier is not a barrier. Geographical distance is not a barrier to human resiliency, audacity, and commitment. I realized I needed to start my campaign of saving the Lychees with Peggy Carswell. Thus, I wrote a newspaper article titled Good Earth, which was published in a prominent newspaper in that region. As it turned out, a lot of people were aware about the hazards of chemical fertilizer, and Peggy Carswell's story influenced them to shift to organic farming. Emboldened by the response, I pushed myself to a new frontier. Women's World Summit Foundation is an organization affiliated with the United Nations, which confers awards to women and women organizations showing extraordinary courage, commitment in improving the lives of rural communities. I decided to nominate her for the award. In the nomination letter, I introduced Peggy Carswell as someone who stood for what she believed in and carried it through. She is a living example that language, culture, physical distance is not a barrier if someone has the willingness to serve. Peggy Carswell showed us that our future is inseparable with the future of our blue planet. In taking care of the soil, trees, and plants, we reclaim our humanity. Friends, I'm glad to inform that Peggy Carswell was conferred the 2016 Women's World Summit Foundation Award for Creativity in Rural Life. Friends, my Lychees story had an ending beyond my wildest imagination. An enchanting night, a very bright moon casting cool blue shadows on the ground, a tree laden with hundreds of ripe lychees, an old man playing a melodious tune in his flute, a boy stands still, mesmerized by the vibration in the music, whose life comes full circle when, as a grown-up man, touched and influenced by a fellow human being, he took upon himself a mission to save the lychee trees.